Hi guys. Recently I've been working with a really cool up-and-coming startup company called Multiplay. They're developing a wicked game engine which allows people like you or me who have no programming skills to create your own games using their game engine. It's really cool, and the project's developing at quite a fast rate. So if you ever want to have a quick look at it, visit their website on multiplay.io. At the bottom of the page they have a Facebook link and a Twitter link, which basically is where they keep their updates and the progress reports on the project, so you can have a read at that. It's also very interesting. On the screen there's a character. This character is actually Justin Bieber, one of the characters they're using in Multiplay. That's one of the things I love about Multiplay, is the fact that they've got a lot of comical value. And this is one of the characters that I rigged up. Rigging is basically the introduction to bones or skeleton, which you introduce to your character to make the animation process much easier. And I thought, why not make a tutorial on this? If you look at the right character, if I click on the head bone, rotate the bone, the head moves in relation to the bone. The same with the arms. You can do the same with the body, bent forward, sideways, twist, legs, and so on. You can even introduce what's known as inverse kinematics. Now, in this case, I've introduced inverse kinematics to the hand. On the right hand side, you see chain length 4. That means that 1, 2, 3, 4 bones are chained together in relation to the hand. So when I move the hand and the hand alone, the whole arm moves. And this is what makes you generate nice fluid humanoid type movements, and this is what you see when you watch animations in the cinema with characters running, jumping, facial expressions, and so on. If I'm to move the chain length down to 2 and I move the hand, you see that 2 of the bones move in relation to the hand. And that is effectively the introduction to character rigging. Now I'm going to take a quick break, and next stage will be actually showing you how to rig up the character, introducing the bones to the character using Blender software. Welcome back. The next step we're going to do here is introduce the bones to our character. We're going to use the character on the left hand side because it doesn't have any bones. As we can see, it just has the mesh of the character itself, but doesn't have the bones. So I'm just going to remove the character on the right just for the time being to give us some space, and we're going to use this character without bones and introduce the bones to him. So the first thing we want to do is add a bone. So by going to add armature single bone, you can't see any bones in place just at the moment because it's inside the character itself, so it's hidden. The first thing you need to do is go to Object Data and click on X-ray, and if I zoom in, you will be able to see the bone there that is highlighted in orange. What I want to do is start off by moving this bone to the bottom of the body over here. So I move my cursor over to the blue arrow, left hand click on the mouse, keep my finger down, and drag the bone directly downwards. Now I want to edit this bone, so I need to go into edit mode, and you will see that the top of the bone is highlighted in orange. If I right hand mouse click on the center of the bone, I highlight the whole bone. If I right hand click mouse on the bottom, I highlight the bottom, and I can also highlight the top. I want to highlight the top because I want to drag that upwards. So again, left hand mouse click, keep my finger down on the mouse button, and move it upwards. So we've technically just created the spine here, which is the backbone. I'll just move it up a little more. Now what I want to do is create another bone joint to the backbone. Simply hit E for extrude and move your mouse upwards, and you can see another bone is created whilst still being joined to the backbone. If I press Z on the keyboard, it straightens up the bone in the Z direction, which is what we want. I left hand click the mouse to set it in place. Now I want to create the shoulder bones, which is the shoulders. Right hand click on here, this ball here, it's highlighted so we know it's clicked. I want to create the shoulder bones at the same time, so I want to mirror them along the x-axis. So if I select that, check that is the first step, keep my finger down on the shift button on the keyboard, and whilst keeping my finger down, press E for extrude. Now if I move my mouse, you can see the shoulders created and they're symmetrical, which is what we want. I now want to do the same thing again for the upper arm bone. So keep your finger down and shift. Whilst keeping your finger down and shift, press E and move your mouse until you locate it where you want. Once again, shift whilst keeping your finger down, press E, and again set it in place by left hand clicking, shift and E, left hand click to set. Now I want to create the hips, so I right hand click on this area of the bone with my mouse. Once again, I want to create a mirror image, so I keep this checked at x-axis mirror. Finger down and shift whilst keeping it down, press E. I create basically the hips. Now you can see both ends are highlighted in orange, which is fine. All we have to do now is press E for extrude, bring down the upper leg bones, press E again for extrude, bring them down, left hand click to set. Now we want to rotate the character so that we can create the foot bone. The easiest way to rotate this character is if you have a roller on your mouse, click down on the roller, and whilst you keep your finger down on the roller, move your mouse around, and then the character moves like so. We want to press E for extruding, and we want to bring out the foot bone to about there. Next, check the character. What we want is the bones to be inside the character itself. We can see about 70% of the bones are inside, but we can have a look here that the arm bones aren't inside the arms themselves. So let's click on this elbow bone. Whilst I keep my finger down, whilst I keep the left button down on the mouse, I can move the green arrow in that direction. Notice it also happens on the other arm as well. That's because this x-axis mirror has been selected. And I can just bring back the bone a little bit in this direction. Now we do the same for this bone. Left hand click, keep your finger down, move it forward, move it forward. Now we do the same for the hand. And now we can see that the bones are inside the character. The very, very important step here is the first thing you must do is, well, first of all, I need to show you that if I start to rotate the bones or move them, they just move, but the character, the body of the character doesn't move in relation to the bones. They're not connected up, so we have to connect them now. But the very, very first thing you must do is go into pose mode. So the bones are in pose mode. Then you have to select the character, which is not the bones, but the character themselves, the character itself. So if I right hand mouse click on the head, you can see that it's highlighted in orange, which is what I want, but I want to do the same for all the rest of the body. So keep your finger down on the shift button. Whilst keeping it down, click on the body, click on the arm, the other part of the arm, the hand, the arm, the hand, legs, foot, legs, and legs. So the whole body is selected. Whilst keeping your finger down on the shift button, click on one of the bones. But you can see that there's only the backbone that's been highlighted. We want the whole bones to be highlighted. If I press A for all, it deselects everything. If I press A again, for all, it highlights everything. So we want the body to be highlighted, which you can see in orange, the whole of the body, and we want the bones to be highlighted, which you can see in blue. But it has to be body highlighted first, bones have to be highlighted second. But you have to set the bones to pose mode down here at the very beginning before you do any highlighting of the body or the bones. Now the next step, we're going to connect the bones to the body. Keep your finger down on Control on the keyboard and press P. We're going to use with automatic weights for this example, so click on that. Now if I right hand click on, say, this arm bone here, which you see is highlighted in blue, if I press R for rotate, you can see when I move the bone, the arm moves as well. If I click on the head bone by right hand clicking the mouse button, press R, you can see that when I move the bone, the head moves. And it's the same for the legs, for the hips, and for the spine, and so forth. So that is basically how you rig up your character just before animating. And the whole point of rigging is to make the animation process more realistic, easier, and more human-like. I'm going to take another quick break, and then I will do a quick animation, show you how to physically animate your character once you've rigged it. Welcome back to the final part of this tutorial, which is the animation side. You will have already by now rigged up your character and have its bones in place, and therefore while moving the bones, the character moves as well. To create a simple animation, we'll firstly have a look down here at the timeline. Normally, such as in the old days when you used to have the films in the cinemas, there would be 24 frames passing per second. So every time 24 frames passes, that's 1 second of filming. So that's just like a guideline, which we're going to use here. You start off at 0, and you can see here the green marker, which you can actually move along by clicking on your left hand mouse button. So we start off at 0. Say that we want our character to look exactly as it is now on 0 frames. We have to first press A to deselect the bones, press A again, highlights all the bones. Once we've highlighted all the bones, we want to insert a keyframe. So over here on the left, we press Insert, Lock, Rot, Scale. That stands for Location, Rotation, Scale. Let's just use this one for the time being. So we click on that. I'll move the green marker away, and you can see now there's a yellow marker. What that's done is it's saying that the character, which is posing as it is on the screen now, is set to pose like that on 0 frames. So the next step is, let's move the green marker over to, it can be any frame, but let's just choose 12 for the time being. And say on the 12th frame you want your character to have its arm up in the air. So let me right hand mouse click on this bone here. I press R on the keyboard for rotate, move my mouse up, and say I want its arm to be there. So I want it to be at that pose on the 12th frame. I press A, which deselects the bone. I need to press it again to highlight all the bones. Insert lock rod scale. So on the 12th frame, my character's arm is going to be up in the air. Now let's move the green cursor and marker along to 24 frames. Let me select the bone again by right hand clicking. Press R, move my mouse down, and now I want his arm to be at the bottom. I want to highlight all the bones, so press A once, press it again to highlight. Insert lock rod scale. So at 0 frames, the character is in its original pose. At 12 frames, the character has its arm up in the air. At 24 frames, the character has his arm down at the bottom. If I move back to 0 and I press play, which is this one here, where my mouse is at the bottom of the screen, watch how the character moves its arm. That is a very basic, simple animation. It's continuing in a loop, so it's going up and down, but technically it's up and down, and that's a basic animation. With practice, you'll obviously get better with creating running, walking animations, and all sorts of other type of more complex animations. But that's just the basic starters of it to get you going. And another cool thing is, if you were to go to File, Export, Save as FBX, Autodesk FBX, you can actually physically save that animation, drag it into Multiplay's game engine, and that animation will actually run on the game engine, which is really cool. So be sure to save it as Autodesk FBX and drag and drop it into Multiplay and see your character move along and start moving on the game engine. It's really cool. Thanks very much for watching.